When life is challenging, who do we turn to for guidance? The human family has been going through some tough times, big changes, and no one is alone in that. That's why we are gathering the matriarchs. They have the wisdom, they have the knowledge to lead us out of crisis and into spiritual well-being. This gathering is for everyone. Come, listen to the elders.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Matriarch Speaks. My name is Shane Wilson, and I'll be your host for this ongoing series where we will meet some amazing matriarchs and receive wisdom for these times we find ourselves in. I'm joining you today, broadcasting from the traditional and unceded territories of the Slaman Nation. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's watching right now. We are so grateful that you are here. I'd like to invite everyone in the audience to consider the traditional lands that you reside on and give thanks to the traditional caretakers of those lands, past, present, and future. If you do not know the traditional territory that you reside on, I invite you to take some time after the broadcast to find out and the history of the place where you live. Let's take 10 seconds now to turn inwards and acknowledge the land that each of us are on and the Indigenous people who have and still do live here. Thank you, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today as we begin our series with April Bennett and Bessie Yellowback. Matriarch Speaks is the vision of April Bennett, who wishes to see the wise voices of matriarchs leading in the challenging times the human family is in. April is Guaracha Duneza on her mother's side and Cree, French, Scottish, Irish on her father's side. She comes from a big family and is the oldest of 12 siblings. She has been a medicine bundle carrier for 40 years. Ejek Musqua Spirit Bear is her Indigenous name, which was given to her by a Cree elder. April has worked for 27 years helping families and children at the Vancouver Aboriginal Child and Family Services Society. She's a bright light in the lives of many. After meeting one of the 13 Indigenous grandmothers a few years ago, April has been called to speak more of her truth to the world. She has a deep respect for the knowledge that matriarchs carry and knows the importance of sharing it at this time on Mother Earth. Thank you, April, for being with us here today. I would like to now introduce Bessie Yellowback. Bessie is from the Gitxsan Nation, known as Kiswak, BC. She belongs to the House of Witinuks and participates with her cultural duties. She has always loved working in the helping field, and this is reflected in the jobs she has held and how she lives her life. People who know Bessie know her for the great acts of kindness that she does in her life. She loves speaking to the children and future leaders. Bessie brings love and care to many people and families and is a vessel of light on the planet. Thank you, Bessie, for joining us here today.
Thank you.
April, now that we're all here, I'd like you to begin our program with the opening prayer.
Thank you. Thank you, Shane. And thank you, everybody here on that. So lovely to spend the evening with you. Creator, thank you for this day. Thank you for all that comes on this day, all the lessons, all the teachings, all the things that we get to see in this world. And Creator, please bless Mother Earth, for she provides for our every need, all the water, the air, and the shelter, and food and medicines. Thank you so much, Mother Earth, for providing that for us. Thank you also for all that we share Mother Earth with, all the animals, all the plant life, all the ones in the sea and the ones that are flying. Please help and guide us to do the best for them wherever possible. And Creator, please bless Father Sky, for he brings changes to us and to Mother Earth. Please bless tonight and all the people that are here in our circle. May it be reached out and may we have and bless each other with love and kindness. Thank you again, Creator, for this wonderful day. All my relations.
All my relations.
All my relations. So, April, the first thing I wanted to ask you is why you decided to create this project and bring the matriarchs together at this time.
Oh, well, actually, I think it was a combination of one other person, and that because I was sitting with her and chatting about wouldn't it be great to gather up women and their voices and to share them and to share the wisdom and the stories of their lives that are so important. For me, I did get to see a grandmother in a ceremony about 6 years ago, and hearing her and what she had mentioned was to keep our voices and that we need to start to open up and use them, and so that we can step forward in what is happening now. She just believed it was time, and I think so. Yeah, I didn't always step forward before. So I just
Beautiful. Well,
really got a lot out of that, and then to bring it forward now with all the was to because of the things that we had to look at, the things that we had to go through, like COVID, like the fire, the heat dome, the flooding, the all the things that were coming one after the other, and of course now where we are, and it's about like, do we cope? Well do we cope, or how well do we view our world. I'm not sure right now if the view of the world is important to people, and that whereas I think every human being is important, and we need to take care of our world and Mother Earth right now because we're running out of time to help her and to fix her. We can still, but it's very difficult. Sorry, thanks.
beautiful. Thank you so much, April. I'm going to turn it over to you, Bessie. Bessie, what's a message you've received from one of your elders that uplifted you in your life?
Well, when I think back, growing up, that there was a lot of lessons shown to me, but without words. My grandmother would not say, "This is what you need to do." She showed it, not only to me, but to all her other grandchildren, and that things will turn out okay, because we all go through hard times in our lives. We hit those bumps in the road, and she was always the first person that I would run to talk to her, if, like in my teenage years, that, like she probably didn't think at that time, but hear, I still hear her words today, even with some of the things that are going on right now in this world,
Mm.
that, you have to be nice to one another. That was her important message. Be there for others, and to help others, not only, monetarily, but of yourself. Be
Mm.
there for them, that you're listening to them, because I do get a lot of calls, saying, I don't know what to do. Sometimes it's about just giving voice, for them to give, just to hear their own voice that, yes, you count in this world, you make a difference, and that's what my grandma always said, that, you can make a difference if you live your life the right way, and I've always taken that to heart, to live my life the right way, which I believe that I have done. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Well, that's beautiful, Bessie. Thanks for sharing that, hearing the compassion in your words there. So, of course,
mm,
Matriarch Speaks is about, connecting the voices of these grandmothers and matriarchs, and also, of course, connecting them with the youth. And so, on that note, we have a youth joining us here today. Thank you, Davina, for joining us here on Matriarch Speaks.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Matriarch Speaks. My name is Davina, and I will be your host for this ongoing series where we will meet some amazing matriarchs. We have Bessie Yellowback and the amazing April Bennett here with us today. I'm proud to say that I'm Sikswatmik from the Sushrop Nation, and I'm part Unduran. I was only 6 weeks old when I was put into the foster care system, and yeah, I'm grateful for the family I grew up in. I feel they shaped me, the person I am today. But growing up was hard for me. For one, I was having a hard time accepting my Indigenous culture, as during the time there was a lot of stereotypes involving the Indigenous people. And on top of that, being a youth in the foster care system wasn't easy as well. It wasn't until roughly the age of 14 I had a full understanding of the struggles of the Indigenous people and what they had suffered. My foster parents really encouraged me to join the culturally relevant urban wellness program. That's a part of VACFAS, in which I was taught about things that aren't taught in our high school textbooks. I was being taught by elders who survived firsthand the residential schools and saw the pain and the suffering that they had to go through and the struggles to fight as Indigenous people. And as a youth in the foster care system, I always thought I was alone. I was the only one in the foster care system and being apart from my family. But it wasn't until the crew program, it made me see that I wasn't. And that's why I wanted to be a part of the Matriarch Speaks. I wanted to tell all the youth and people that are listening that they're not alone. We are here, and that's why we have the Matriarch Speaks. We're learning wisdom of how we can survive what we're going through and the journey that we have. But I'm joining you today from the traditional and unceded territories, from the Katsi, Kwatlan, and Samiami people. So thank you guys for having me today. I'd like to bring back into the questions. So April, from what I've been taught, nothing in this world happens for no reason, and everything has a spiritual and meaning purpose and is guiding us towards something. From what your perspective is, what hidden meanings might be there behind the challenges that humanity is facing right now?
Thank you, Davina. That was great. And I just want to, my perspective, what I think right now is what's happening is that we're learning about and getting to witness what's actually happening that's been human caused. Okay, the influences of our logging that have taken trees and caused erosion, and for kind of roads caving in and things like that because of soil erosion, and the water, as we know, returns. It returns to what it already knows. It already has a memory, and all land actually has a memory too of whatever happens to it, as we do as humans. And that so we can see this in what's happening naturally around us. Who would have thought that Vancouver would have been cut off? You know, it's a large city, you know, and we, when we were growing up in the little community, we used boats all the time, right? And I was thinking, gee, I need my boat now, and that instead of the car. But you know, it's scary to see this, and because they're our trees are so needed. Our trees, all the bogs, all the marshes that are so needed because that's our place where we make oxygen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the places where we need to create more oxygen and clean. It's the cleaner for Mother Earth, all those places, and we need them. All the animals need them, and that. So I used to walk in the bogs, and just all the amount of different species of trees and the moss and the birds that were all there was just beautiful. I really love to be a part of Mother Nature as a healing thing and that. But when we caught the dome, the heat dome, I don't think I've ever had it that hot, ever. I mean, I know 30s or something, but in some places it was recorded to be 49 degrees Celsius. What is that? And true enough, we were we were all roasting. And then the terrible thing about it were people were dying, you know, and our animals, our poor animals in the heat dome. We have Noons Creek, a beautiful area where the blue heron nest, and you can see them way up in the tree. But I thought, oh no, because they're so high up, they got no protection, you know. And the herons, when they want to see or want to shelter their babies, they'll spread their wings, and a lot of times they'll lose their water, and they need to go and get water and that, and come back. And so I think that was a terrible tragedy to
Yeah.
see our lovely birds getting hurt like that. But that's caused from like the jet streams, how the air flows. And sometimes it just slows down really high up in the atmosphere. And when it slows down, a pocket of heat will stay in a place. And that's what happened to us. And that, I forget for how long, but yeah, worry about water, you
Yeah.
know?
I know it's been, I mean, the highest heating was like last year, and that was just
Yeah.
horrible to even be outside. I can't. It was just, it's exhausting. It's tiring. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of the people, a lot of, you know, it's hard to for survival for water, and you know,
Yeah.
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 Um, for anyone who's going through a hard time right now, or is struggling in some way, what do you want them to know, Bessie? What is something that you think would help them?
You know, and once again, you know, I go back to my grandmother, you know, like even in this day and age right now with what's happening out in the world and our ecosystem, it's
Mhm.
all being destroyed, and all, you know, the pandemic,
Yeah.
you know. And I think what comes to mind for me is like a message to our future leaders out there. It's
Hmm.
about like listening to the past. You know, I learned so much from April when we sit there and talk, just me and her, you know,
Yeah.
and then we look to the future, listen to the past, look to
Yeah.
the future, you
Yeah.
know. And when I look back, I grew up in the child welfare system as well. The homes that I've lived in, they were not always nice, but you just leave that behind and you move on. What
Mhm.
and you ask yourself, what kind of learnings did I get from that? You'll be surprised the gifts that you get just from that, learning from the tragedies that you go through.
Mm.
And one of my biggest learning that I shared with April too was, as bad as some of the foster homes were, it taught me how not to be.
Mhm.
And once again, that's about being nice to people, treat people with dignity and respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause some people could walk around angry all the time for what's happened to them. And it's about, yes, acknowledge it and leave it outside the door. That's always
Mm.
how I go into work. If I've had a horrible morning, well, I'm not going to go to work angry. I'll leave it outside the door. And I'm trying to remember who told me that. I think it was a Cree elder. He was originally from Alberta,
Mhm.
and he lived in BC. He said, just leave it outside the door. And I never ever forgot that, because I used to invite him to the programs we had when I was working in Prince George. And, there's so much like depression outside now, out
Mhm.
there. Not only, professional people themselves.
Mhm.
You see that with the nurses, the RCMP, and it's like even the first responders,
Yeah.
it's taking its toll on them,
Mhm.
and we have to realize that they need help also,
Yeah.
that we need to give back as well,
Mhm. Mhm.
and even if it's some little way. I mean, I was watching the news tonight and watching about Ukrainians. There's a
Mhm.
restaurant in Vancouver here, in
Yeah.
Commercial Drive, that people are supporting. They're
Yeah.
showing their support by, patronizing this restaurant,
Mhm.
and it means a lot to the people that own that restaurant, the Ukrainian people. She has family that she's thinking about there, and her relatives. And when you look around, everybody is our relative.
Yes. I agree.
Everybody is our relatives.
Yeah.
You'll be walking down the street, somebody will say, "Hi, Auntie." You turn around, "You talking to me?" Or "Hi," you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when April was talking about the ecological system there for a while, when you think about the plant realm, the animal realm, we think about like the animals, they depend on the plants to
Mhm.
survive,
Mhm. Mhm.
and like the animals, like they don't depend on us. Like we depend on that as
Mhm.
well. We depend on the plant, we depend on the animals, and that's why it's so important to do our part,
Mhm.
to live the right way. It's all about recycling. I always say to myself, I live in a 15-floor high rise. I said I should put on a workshop to show the people how to recycle. Well, how I recycle,
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
you see that they just don't think about things,
Mhm.
how they dispose of such things, and it's for our young people that what they're going through now, if you can't say it out loud. I mean, I had this 16-year-old reach out to me, because she can't talk like face to face, like, just shy. And I'm not her social worker, but I have
Mhm.
this relationship with her because I visit the foster home.
Yeah.
And she says, who do you think I should ask? I want a little tattoo. She says, just a little one. And this was like 2 o'clock in the morning when she texted me. And I said, I might just feel a bit more like myself if I get a little tattoo, she says. So, she was reaching out. Who do I talk to about this? And you have to be respectful. And of course, next work day, I said, I texted her. I said, well, that was awfully late. I said, how about now we can talk about this? And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, what were you doing up 2 o'clock in the morning? I said, yeah, you're supposed to be sleeping,
Yeah.
and I like to think that I'm making a difference, creating a difference for her, how she thinks,
Yeah.
that she's able to trust me to ask me different questions. I said, and that's opening the door. It's about allowing the youth to have that voice and for us to acknowledge what they're saying,
Yeah.
and even to acknowledge the little steps that they take. It doesn't matter how little it is, acknowledge it, you know. And that's so important for our young people to hear, and the young adults.
Yeah,
So,
because it's difficult too growing up in the system. We never knew who our true guardian was. We didn't have a full understanding. Are the foster
mhm,
parents that we are with now, or they're our parents, or who do we go to ask for permission, right? So
mhm,
it is difficult, and that's why we have the Matriarch Speaks. We want to allow the youth to know that they're not alone, and we all have gone through different experiences and different journeys in life, and we are where we are now because of the guidance from all the elders and all the
mhm,
teachings, right? We look at the past, but we're going to try to use that to strengthen our journey going forward.
mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And for the both of you, like, for if we're looking for more inspiration during this challenging times, like with COVID, it took a toll on a lot of people. Through it brought depression, it brought anxiety, it brought a lot of pain, a lot of suffering through all of these. Like, we lost thousands of people, and we lost friends, we lost family. But during these challenging times we find ourselves in, what inspiration can you guys offer for our generation moving forward?
We have, sorry, we're here now, you know, all of us,
Mhm.
the ones that are here, we're here now. We we got here for something, for a reason, and that. And one of the things that I really love is a Hopi people, and that. And there's a people that have been here, one of the longest peoples in the world, uh, of ancient ways, and that. But one of the things they say is we are the ones we've been waiting for. That's what they say. And it's about how they look at life, and that. And I admire how they look at life. Oops. Um,
Can't hear you, April.
I believe maybe her mic got cut out. But for you, Bessie, is there, like, what inspiration can you offer for our generation going through their times they're facing right now?
Hmm. That's a pretty tough question,
Hmm.
because everyone is so unique in their own way.
yeah.
I mean, if you look at where you're sitting, Davina,
Yeah.
that you've come all this way, you ask yourself, how did I get here? What did I do? What can I change? What can I make, what can I do to make something different? And I know it's harder for youth to reach out and say, I'm struggling here, and you see that because they were out of school, they've lost all their friends, they've lost their teachers, and that's a huge loss. And that's the same for the little ones,
Yeah.
because even the ones that are in kindergarten, they thought it was fun at first because they're doing schoolwork on the floor at home. But after a while, it loses they lose interest after. And that was the hardest part, is, being away from school and then trying to fit back in again. That's tough.
Yeah.
Because that's been like over 2 years, practically 2 years before the youth are able to go back. And some don't want to go because they're afraid they might get sick, and that still goes today. And there's some that don't want to be vaccinated, but that's their choice. We can't make them. We can't force them. We just accept that. That's their decision.
Yeah.
And I think to be inspirational. I like to think I'm inspirational with my grandkids and my great grandchildren. I just had one over this weekend from Bella Coola.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, and she was such a delight. She's 5 years old. She was just, I don't know, she was so full of questions and asking why, and just sitting there talking to her. I set up a little picnic table for her, and she's having breakfast, having waffles the next day, and she was just so happy. And she said, "Are you going to make sure I have waffles next time I come?" So, and it's teaching. I'm always talking to my grandchildren, teaching them, the right way. As young as they are, they will retain it. They'll remember it. They'll remember what you tell them. They
Yes.
do. Because we don't always give kids credit for what they've learned, but they remember, and maybe years, like even my grandson when he was here. Oh, do you remember what you said? Like when he was probably 9 years old, and he's a dad now, and I really enjoy that yes, they did listen.
Yeah.
And I remember that's what grandpa said to me, about getting a trade. And that's what he did. So he did listen to his grandpa, and the same with my niece, because my husband always said that education is what opens the door for us. That's what opens the door. Education is important.
Yeah.
That is one thing they cannot take away from you, your education. And like I was 40 years old when I started university. I said it's never too late. And my grandkids say, "You're going to school?" They're surprised that grandma's going to school. Yeah,
Yeah.
I said, "I started when I was 40." I said, and of course I had the support then. My husband always encouraged, and when he talked to youth, it was about education.
Yeah.
Education. You have to have education. That's one thing nobody can take away from you. And I'd like to be able to share with the youth to have their voice. Their voices can be heard, whether it's about happiness, about sadness, talk to someone out there. And I do have some, like teenagers that will, connect with me, even if it's for 5 minutes. If they phone, great, but be there. If you're going to say, call me, they do, but make sure you have that time for them. Make that time.
Yeah, because our youth is our next generation. We
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to support them no matter what. And we want them to have their voices. And again, it comes back to sometimes being in foster care. A lot of youth don't have that voice. They don't step up for themselves and ask what needs to be done. But don't be afraid to ask. Use your voices. That's what they're there for. We want to be able to stand our ground too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And to do it respectfully, not with
Yes.
anger,
No,
respectfully.
of course.
And I think VACFAS has done a wonderful job with the kids in care, really making sure there is culture in our kids' lives and that they support them that way, and really, like, I work as a resource social worker, which means I go into the homes, I see how the foster parents are doing, how are you implementing the cultural plan that we have for the kids, those types of things, or doing teachings with them. Like, even right now, even though these kids are small, I'm doing, April, when I do those little mats and I put medicine wheel on there, I hand stitch every single one, and then I put green in the center. And that next time I go into this home, there's four of our kids there. I'm going to present them one with each that they can call their own, and with a story that goes with it. So that's part of the teachings that it's never, they're young, yes, but they remember,
Yeah.
they'll ask. So culture is so important. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope that youth more like interact more, get to know more of where their culture is from. I lost the privilege of learning my language and my culture, and I love the family I grew up in, but I grew up in a non-Indigenous home, but I lost a lot of my culture and who I am. And I'm still, even though I'm 25 now, I'm still learning a lot of my culture, and I'm trying to get into learning my language. And, you know,
You know,
it's important to understand our history,
yeah.
right? But not try to
Always,
be too upset about it. We have the truth and reconciliation,
yeah.
right? Everything is just coming out, but we all need to be united and stand together. And
Mm-hmm.
we're all going through this
True.
together. We understand what loss was. But we are strong. I know we're all strong. We're very strong people. We've
And we
survived.
come from that. We all come from that. My ancestors are very strong from what they had to go through. And that, Bessie's, we've all kind of made it to where we are now. And it's just, for us, it's a lifetime of learning.
Yeah.
It starts here. It could start anywhere you want it to, and you can have that because we're always more than what we were. Okay, that's how I look at life, how I look at people and individuals. We've come this far for a reason, and you have a lot of gifts. Each person has a lot of gifts, and
Yes.
we don't get to shine all at the same time because then what would happen? We had nothing to look forward to, maybe, So that's why there's the rising sun, and there's the moon that comes up, that kind of thing. We have to look at how we pace that, and looking at how to work and be with what's going on for Mother Earth always, and
Yeah.
that we can't leave her behind. We are we are here. We have lots of gifts, like I say, to share, and I think she needs to benefit from that, and that to look at each self inside, like Bessie is saying, and that you got that love inside for yourself. It's always going to grow and grow and come out and be there. That's why I love the work that I do, because it's always with children. There's that door is always open, and we always make medicines for one another. When Comen just lost her grandma, I gave her a bag of medicine. They're going back to where she needs to be tomorrow. But I'm really happy that we all take a part of it, and it's about sharing it so that we all don't take all of it at once, that we're all here to share what we know. And each individual has a lot to give. I'm always so happy to take part in things like this. And children are our teachers. My children were my teachers, and my grandchildren also. And my grandchildren are very open to the ancestors. You
Yeah.
can feel them, they're there. Use them, talk with them, be there for them, and give them a plate of food, you know, things like that we can do for ceremony. We need ceremony and things to lift us up all the time, to celebrations, and take care of this person in here, and that, because we all deserve the best. We really do.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm gonna it's about time we close their first podcast, but this has been an amazing interview. I think I've received so much value from it. So thank you so much, April and Bessie, for sharing your hearts and your wisdom with all of us here today. To close our time together, April has a song she would like to share with us.
Oh, oh, I forgot that. Of course, Bessie's going to sing with me. This is a song, and it's about Great Spirit. Great Spirit is with all of us in this time, and it's one of my favorite songs. It's called the Cherokee Morning Song, and I don't have instruments, I just have my voice today. So here goes. When they when they when they hey, oh, ya, ya. When they when they when they hey, oh, ya, ya. When they when they when they hey, oh, ya, ya. When they when they when they hey, oh, ya, ya. I'm so happy to be alive, and I celebrate all that's living here on earth. And I celebrate my ancestors who are all around us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, April, and thank you to everyone watching. Thanks for being a part of Matriarch Speaks and supporting our vision to bring the voices of matriarch forward at this time. Remember to join us again next week, every Monday evening at 7:30, as we continue to explore these themes and hear more voices from the matriarchs. Next week, we will be joined by Annette Lowe, so be sure to tune in for that. We would like to thank Watari for their ongoing support in developing this program, and a special thanks to our program coordinator, Jessica Hill, and our tech support, Shane Wilson. All right, guys, see you next week.
Thank you.